4:30. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. Lynn will not be joining us tonight, and because they're getting ready to sell their house, so they've got some things they have to do.
Did they
And
sell
then
it?
I don't know. I know they're in the process. I think it goes on the market this week. And then Sally Brownfield, I'm not sure if she will be joining us or not. I know she was going to be out of town this week, but so it was a little bit up in the air whether she would join us. So why don't we go ahead and get started? I'll turn this over then to Alex and Brenda, since this is your meeting.
Thank you very much. Well, unfortunately, again, we've had difficulties, and I'll let Brenda get into the detail, but we still don't have all the information that we need. And we're not the only school district that's going through this, but with a July 10th deadline, it is a little frustrating in terms of getting things accomplished. But we're doing the best we can. We're going to provide you with the latest information that we currently have on board. And Brenda and I were talking this morning in the office that what we need to do is to day by day keep the board apprised, along with Wyatt, what's happening in terms of the information that we're getting and the information that is yet to be received. But we have a bit of anxiousness at this point, and so we want to probably share some of that information with you. And Brenda, on that, I'm going to turn it over to you at this point in time.
Okay. Before I get into our current or our next year budget, I want to talk a little bit about the current year budget. You're going to see a budget extension coming to you in the month of July. We need to do that because of the ESSER funds for the revenue expenditure, and also because of CTE. They generated a lot of revenue that they needed to spend or they will lose it. So you'll see that coming to you in July, and that'll be, we'll need to do the hearing and the whole bit on that to get into, and I have to advertise it just like I do the budget. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. In regards to the 21-22 budget, it has been a bit challenging because they released the software about 2 weeks ago and it has not been working correctly. They did another update last night. They believe they have it fixed now. I did get an official email today. So, you know, we've been working behind the scenes. We input into Westpac Skyward, and then you have to do separate imports for salary and benefits and your MSOCs. They're done totally separate when you import them into the EBS system at OSPI. So we've been continuing to work on that behind the scenes, waiting for the software. I can tell you there's still lots of balancing to do within this. Tammy and I were working yesterday. We were laughing that I was going to create a path in the carpet between our offices because I probably made at least 50 trips in there, and we made changes probably every 3 minutes in the budget. So that's how fast things change right now. Part of what happens right now is I take and run all the grants, and we run expenditures versus revenue to make sure they're balancing within. So that's a lot of what was going on yesterday with the changes. CTE actually has added some staffing due to academies and some needs at Shelton High School. So I ran a new F203 this afternoon to change our revenue based on the additional students they will have in there. So that was another change that I will have to bring in once we did that. Curriculum just got me their budgets today, so I'll be inputting those. So there's still a lot of that type of thing going on at this moment in time. And we're also still receiving some grant allocations. Kelly got news that we have a new grant today that's going to help with McKinney-Vento students. So I just saw that push through to OSBI for approval there. So that's the type of things that are happening minute by minute here. So Alex and I did talk about that it would be a great idea as this continues on, since the information I'm going to give you today is still pretty rough and will continue to change daily, that I keep you updated almost daily on the changes, and I'll just update my document as we go and send that out to you in an email. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see where we're at this moment in time with a snapshot basically is what is going on. And I will explain to you what is in there change. So, okay, can everybody see that? Okay, so we ended up going with the 4,125 FTE budget because we ended the last year, this year, I'm working in 3 years now, I'm sorry with the audit, 30.76 FTE above the 4125. So we're feeling pretty comfortable with that, especially because we're bringing the students, all the students back. So that's the version we went with. I'm still projecting that our beginning fund balance will be right around $4 million for September 1st. So a few changes happened from the last time that I reported. So the local taxes, which is our levy, we can collect the 5.5 million this next year, but the ESD only allows me to put in a partial percentage, even though we always collect our full and late taxes. When I do budget, they won't let me put it in at 100%. That's one of their rules. So I backed that down to the percentage they recommend. So you'll see we're projecting 5.39 million. So that's up for from last year from $196,000 over budget. So then the next line is our local non-tax support. That is all of the fees we get in, students that buy lunches, anything that's locally funded by, donations, that type of thing. The reduction you see there is strictly food services because all of our meals are going to be free this next year. So we will not be collecting anything for lunches. So that I've totally removed that out of there. The state general purpose, that's strictly our apportionment that's generated for basic ed from the enrollment and our levy equalization dollars. So the levy equalization dollars actually are going down this year because our levy went up. So your levy can go up, but you take the impact on your levy equalization. So that happened there. Apportionment did go up and the special ed general apportionment went down. So we don't have too big of a difference there because of the up and down balancing. So it's up by about $260,000 right now. I don't anticipate that will change at all. State special purpose, that is down a little, and it's because our special ed went down because we're not reporting as many students. Jenny has been great to get that down pretty close to the funding formula. The bad thing is we have some high need kids, so it still doesn't fund it totally. And then our LAP dollars went down for this next year. Our transitional, bilingual, and high cap went up a little bit. So we still are down by about $144,000 in state general purpose there, or state special purpose, sorry. And then our federal general purpose, that is strictly our federal forest dollars. That's the only thing that's in that line item, and we have not received the new allocation for that. So I've just rolled over what we had in there last year. So there's no change there at this point. Federal special purpose, it's interesting. All the federal money is going up. So everything in that category so far that we've received the allocations for has been higher for this next year. You have the federal special ed grant, Title I, Title II school improvement grant, migrant, limited English, our Indian education grant, and even our USDA commodities are going up for next year. So that's why you see the big change there in that of $971,000. The thing with that is, of course, there's strings attached in that federal money, and they all have to live within their means. So I have to balance expenditures to revenue in there. I get error warnings if they're not balanced. So that will change that. Our expenditures will have to go up by that amount. Revenues from other districts, there's just a small change in the non-high based on enrollment of what we're able to build them on. So that's what you see, the 39,243 up from that. The revenues from other entities and other financing sources, those are basically rolled over from last year. There's no change there. So right now, our revenue from last year's budget is up by a little over $1 million. And then you're going to see down below our expenditures are up more than that. But so our certificated salaries, we're up by about $1.6 million, and that's for certificate administrators and teachers. There is a 2% IPD cost of living raise this year that we pass through to everyone. Of course, that's partially funded in the revenue because we do have more staffing than we are funded for in the state formula. So you see that there. The classified salaries are also up, basically by some additional paras that special ed has added for one-on-ones, and then the 2% IPD also is there. So that's up by $608,000. And that makes our payroll taxes go up when you increase salaries. So those are up by $624,000. In the 21-22 in this budget, those are running about 86.13%. Last year, they were at 85.14%. So they're up about 1%. Part of that's going to be CTE has added quite a few teachers. Kelly has added some staffing certificated wise in the LAP program also that has to live within that budget. So those are some of the changes you see there in the salaries and benefits. The good news is for contracted services, special ed this year doesn't have a single contracted employee. They have hired full staff. So that's good news. So you see that go down by about $306,000. And then our supplies right now, I'm still going through and balancing all the building budgets and that type of thing. So that's probably going to change again too as I go through those. So they're down a little bit right now, but nothing significant. So our total expenditures are up from last year by 2.5 million. We're still projecting that we're about 500,000 above, or the expenditures are below revenue by about $500,000. So we would be increasing the fund balance at the end of this budget year is what we're still doing. So, you know, with this first, where we're at, there's a lot of information in here, but it still has to be balanced. It's still moving parts. But I'm still feeling pretty good about where we're going with this. So I don't know if you have any questions on that. I know that it's not real fine tuned yet, and I will be honest with you that it's taking every line item and balancing. I have not put the ESSER money in here yet. That will go on both sides too, the revenue and expenditures. And I want to let you know we're still planning to move forward with the committee, hopefully to start it in July and continue into August of how to spend those funds. And that will probably continue on, especially with ESSER 3, because we have through 2024 to spend those. So, and I'm sure Wyatt will want to have some opinions on that too and give us some ideas. So,
Brenda, excuse me, and Sally, I would just like to communicate to the board that it's going to be crucial to monitor those ESSER funds very appropriately as they've been designated to be expended. I'm hearing some districts utilizing ESSER funds, believe it or not, to hire additional staff. I would highly recommend that we not do that and that we safeguard and use the ESSER funds, ESSER 2 and 3, in terms of how it's been designated to be expended, and not to think that we have extra money, because if we were to do that, we would get ourselves in trouble in the future. And I think we've got to be very, very, very conservative in respect to the utilization of those ESSER funds. They need to be appropriated accordingly.
Yes, OSPI has been very clear in their messages out that they don't recommend it for staffing because that funding is not sustainable. So
I can chime in that on all of those statewide WASDA calls, they said the same thing, that because they are not sustainable funds and they're just for the period of time that they're designated to watch out for that. I would ask though that as we're doing this, because if we do see I mean, I just don't have any idea what next school year is going to look like with the amount of people that come in. But obviously, if we end up with quite a few more kids than budgeted for, if there are positions that are needed, we would be looking at that outside of ESSER funds. We wouldn't be using
Right.
ESSER funds. We would be using, appropriate budget to be utilizing that if we're in need of staffing because of, say, a kindergarten or first grade explosion.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm just wondering. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen next year.
Right. And I feel that the 4125 is conservative, very conservative. I think that parents and students are excited to get back to school. And I think we'll exceed that 4125 mark again. And that, of course, is a big plus for us going down the road in 21-22. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page in terms of the ESSER funding. We can't get complacent and say, well, we're going to borrow from the ESSER funds to do this or that. And that's when you start getting in trouble. And I know that the board will be very cognizant of that, and so will our new superintendent. I just thought I would mention it for fair warning, to not get carried away in any way, shape, or form regarding the ESSER money. So,
did I hear correctly, Brenda, when you were talking about salaries being about 86% of the budget right now?
Yeah.
Okay, all righty. And you mentioned the curriculum submitted budgets higher up on the line items there. What curriculum are we looking at coming down the road? And what
I actually don't have the chart yet showing what our adoption new cycle will be since we stopped it for 2 years. And quite honestly, I haven't even opened their budget. I just got it at about 3:30 this afternoon.
Okay.
I haven't even looked at it yet. So
just kind of looking for an estimated dollar amount there. So, okay.
yeah, the good news is I rolled forward their current budget, so there's money in there already, so it may not change too much from what is already here when I go in and actually put in what they have.
Okay. All righty. All righty.
Is there any other questions?
I was hoping, both of Brenda and I were hoping that this would be a more in-depth report, but unfortunately it's been out of our control. But that's why Brenda and I talked today about how important it's going to be to give you almost a daily update in terms of where we're at prior to July 10th.
Mhm.
So we will start that immediately.
And I'm
So
sorry.
go ahead, Sandy.
The screen was frozen, so I didn't catch most of that.
Oh, well, what I mentioned, Sandy, is that, we were hoping for a more in-depth report to you this afternoon. But based on the fact we don't have all the information that we need, Brenda and I discussed how important it would be to provide each board member with updated information on almost on a daily basis prior to July 10th, so that you know exactly where we're at. And then you can ask questions accordingly on a regular basis up to July 10th.
Is OSPI thinking of extending any deadlines to give districts a little bit of leeway since the software has been so problematic?
We haven't heard anything yet.
No, I have a feeling July 10th is a Saturday, so I'm thinking they're probably not going to require us to have it in until the 12th for Monday. That's probably the most we'll get out of them.
I seem to remember you worked that last year, that final weekend like that too. Already.
I'm used to it, so.
Thank you for your work on it.
Our saving grace, quite frankly, and I know that you can see this, is that we exceeded our projected enrollment. And unfortunately, many school districts are not in this position, and it's a real headache for them. So thank goodness that we hit and exceeded our projected enrollment, and this puts us in, you know, a pretty good place at this particular time.
And from what we learned at the last board meeting, all of the new staffing has been pretty successfully filled.
Mhm.
So
Yes,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
We're doing real well in our staffing. Absolutely.
Yeah. Very good.
So in terms of staffing, have principals been increasing staff at all? Especially, you know, like we talked about kindergarten, first grade. I know some of that is a little bit guesswork at this point, but I was also thinking as we're going back full time, have we thought about things like, do we need to increase counseling support? What about SROs? I know we eliminated that position since we weren't in buildings this year. Have we had any conversations around those kinds of things?
The buildings have not increased staff. Linda Arnold, as you know, has been working on the para side, so she's organizing that. We actually spoke a little bit today about it, so we'll continue on with that. We have increased nursing by 1, so we have 3 nurses in this budget. We haven't talked about SROs at all yet. So there was an increase in staffing at Shelton High School. Bruce Kipper did come and meet with Alex and I and gave his rationale of why he needed additional staffing to get the 9th graders actually up to par where they need to be. And he did an excellent job. I will say that from me. I'm sure Alex has the same viewpoint on that because we talked about it. But so we did give 2 basic ed positions there, and then Dawn and CTE was able to provide, I think, 3.5 for them to meet the needs of what all the students were enrolling for, to be able to do those interventions, plus get them a full year of math and ELA were the 2 big things they were focusing on. So that's really the only school that we have upped staffing at this point in time.
So I'm guessing as we go along and as we get closer to the school year, if we're seeing, say, more kindergartners, for example, then those increased number of students would basically then, by their existence, provide for additional staff if we needed them.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. And we've done that in the past, you know, as students continue to enroll during the summer. We have a specific indication that we need to increase staff, and we've done that, and in order to meet the need. And that, of course, like you say, Sally, it pays for itself. So.
And we're looking, I'm assuming, because I know we've been really, Brenda, you've worked really hard with principals, especially at the elementary, to keep numbers down to increase the funding, and that's all included in this as well.
It is. Right now, I just ran that actually this week. The K3 level with this 4125 has class sizes of 16. So if our numbers come in, we'll still be okay for quite a bit of distance there because they use special ed and there's several pieces that fit into that. So, and then, but truly, if we see the numbers, they know we'll give them an additional teacher in whatever grade level they need it in. So
that's pretty much SOP, as you know, Sally. The other thing I want to mention is that we're, and I know that the board understands this and appreciates it, is that you may get a request or a recommendation from Wyeth about administrative support. We're running very, very lean, as we've discussed in prior meetings. So I'm not sure if specifically I'm going to try to meet with Wyeth tomorrow in person to get a better idea what he's talking about. But that's something maybe that you should anticipate as we move forward. And if and when the projected enrollment increases, that'll make it easier to do something along those lines. But just to keep you aware and apprised, that's something that needs to be discussed. So there you have it at this point, as of the 29th of June.
All right. So from what I'm hearing, so we have the general idea. Thank you for all of that, Brenda, and good luck as you move forward, and that you'll keep us giving us regular updates. So based on that, I guess what I'm hearing is we're probably not looking at another budget study session prior to July 10th, partly because we also have the 4th of July holiday in there. And or do you think we would need another one? Because our first board meeting in July is not until the 13th.
So what I can do, Wyatt wanted to meet with me tomorrow too when he stops in here to take care of some other things. I can ask him what his thoughts are about another study session if we want to do one right before the 10th. Because I'll be pretty close, but there will be things that will still happen that weekend, cleaning up things, but the numbers would be really close. So I can ask him that if you would like me to.
I will. Yep, that would be great. And
Okay.
whatever you recommend too, because I know that your time is super valuable in those. You know, if you're giving us daily updates, we really may not need to have a meeting and take, you know, an hour of your time that could be better spent elsewhere.
Okay.
So, any other questions for Brenda or Alex or comments?
Thank you for your understanding, and we'll go from here.
All right. Great. Well, thank you very much.
Yes, and I look forward to seeing you on the 7th of July.
Yes, as do we.
All right.
All right. Well, I guess at this point, we'll stand adjourned then. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good night.
Good night.